Witam serdecznie na powakacyjnym wykładzie Mistrzów Architektury organizowanym przez Stowarzyszenia Architektów Polskich, oddział w Katowicach. Chciałam zaznaczyć, że to jest tylko jedna z naszych wielu imprez. Wszystkie nasze imprezy możecie śledzić na naszej stronie internetowej i na Facebooku. Zapraszam serdecznie do udziału, do naszego życia architektonicznego, jak również do wstępowania do naszego oddziału. Dziękuję.
Również chciałbym powitać Was bardzo serdecznie na kolejnym wykładzie z cyklu Mistrzowie Architektury i podziękować Wam za liczną obecność. Przez ostatni rok mieliśmy serię wykładów architektów skandynawskich. Byli u nas kolejne goście z Danii, Norwegii oraz Finlandii. A tej jesieni chcielibyśmy skupić się na architekturze z nieco mniej oczywistych krajów. Jak wiecie, dzisiaj jest z nami architekt z Japonii, Ryo Abe. Natomiast nasz listopadowy mistrz architektury również przyjedzie z bardzo ciekawego kraju o burzliwej historii, która ma duży wpływ na architekturę aż do dzisiaj. Więcej szczegółów ujawnimy już wkrótce, więc jeżeli chcecie być na bieżąco, to zapraszam do polubienia fanpage'a Mistrzowie Architektury SARP na Facebooku oraz do obserwowania profilu Masters of Architecture na Instagramie. It's a great privilege to introduce this young and talented architect. He came here from very far away, from Tokyo, the capital of Japan. Today, in our city, he is going to present his amazing works, where he integrates original ideas and forms with traditional Japanese techniques. By his projects, he created his own personal style, with no regards to trends or public convention. How much the Japanese architecture differs from the European one? We will learn the answers within the next 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, the head of AARA Architects, Ryo Abe.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. I'm Ryo Abe from Tokyo. I'm very glad to come to Katowice, and thank you very much to join me to my lecture today. Today I know that there's a big football game and you come here, so I'm very happy. So I'm going to make the speech very quick, so you can go back to see that football game after that. And first period, I will like to introduce my residency project, and later I'm going to introduce my public project. I started my own office in 1995, and in that moment, most of my project was a residency project, and whenever I'm designing the private house, I like to design very unique and special house for that only one family. So I always asking the families to give me the requirement list, which is from the very minor things to the very important things. And I always ask him to make the list from the most important things to the most, very small things. That most important for me is that making a list, because most of the time that most of the requirement from the family is the same always. They always wanted to have a good light. They always wanted to have a good wind and good privacy, but they like to have some very open to the neighbors, so that the house could be all the same. But the list is always very unique. Some people have the most important things that is not so important for the others. So that from seeing the list, I try to find the uniqueness of each families and try to make the house through those their own stories. This is the house, that renovation house of that 50-year-old house, and for this family, the most important things was the memories of the house history, because this house was presented to the grandparents, to his fathers when he was born. Then, when he grown up and independent, his father gave this house to him. And so this was like a huge present of each generations of the house. So he wanted to keep this house, and he wanted to give this house to next generation, to his son each son or daughter, because they are now grown up and independent, but they, in maybe a few years, they will come back with their own families, and then they got independent. He wants to give this house to his children, and his another requirement is he wants their children to come back to this house. So he still wanted to have the chance of the renovation of this house for future. So you can see this house looks very old and traditional, but actually I renovated everything because his old house was designed as the lifestyle of the 15 years ago, which is not like a modern lifestyle. So all the floor was designed with the tatami mat and everybody was sitting like this. But now they are sitting in the chairs and the tables, using a table, and so it doesn't fit to the modern lifestyle. So I changed actually everything, but I try to make it look like more older than before. So because this is the memory from his grandfather, so 2 generations before. So but he wanted to take it to 2 generations after. So my concept was trying to extend the history of this house as my design. So that the basic design, I try to make it older than before, and that I put some like modern materials together and modern lifestyle, but still it looks old, and you cannot recognize where is a new place and where is the old place. But actually, this is all new design, and that. So that you can see there's a sofa, there's the dining chair, then dining table, but they have the feeling of the old style of Japanese house. And this is another house, also renovation house. In this house, there's one old lady living inside, and they have 2 sons, but they already grown up and they're going out from the house. And this is in the center of the Tokyo, and they have so big garden, but almost every weekend that there's some guy comes to visit her and asking her, would you like to sell this house, because we would like to make the big like a high-rising building here. But she really loves the garden here, so her motivation of asking me to give the renovation of the house is she wants to keep this garden, because she also wanted to give this house to the child, and but she still wants them to keep this garden. So I make that the house in front is a tea ceremony house, but she doesn't really do the tea ceremony. But she wanted to have some architecture because it's nice to make the good condition of the garden. And also I make the good condition with the existing house. But all the design was started to think that how can I see the garden much better from almost everywhere in the garden, I mean in the house. And I tried to renovate the house as a part of the garden. So it's like a tour of the running about the garden, so that I make a very good sequence to connect each rooms, because this house was also like a 90-year-old house. They have several renovations in this history, and the plan was so confused and mixed up. So I tried to set up the condition of the house and try to make the good sequence. And also this house, also I almost changed all the interior, because it used to be a kind of old style of Japanese lifestyle, but now the old lady cannot sit on the floor directly. She wanted to use the chair and the table. It's like a Western style of the living. But so I tried to change the house, fit into the modern lifestyle, but still wanted to keep the feeling of the old style. And this is the entrance. It looks like a very like one of the most oldest part, but actually it's additional. There's no such entrance in this house before, but actually there's a lot of generation of her son and daughter and the grandson is coming to this house. So she likes to have that big entrance to invite their whole family. So that entrance was kind of the most important place for her to design. So I actually adapted the new entrance to this house. So it looks like inviting a lot of families to in this house. And this is actually my latest project, which is also renovation of the old house. But this client, they are living in very middle of the Tokyo, and the husband is a graphic designer, and the wife is the interior designer. So they are like a very much like a very modern couples, and they seems to enjoying the city life in Tokyo. But they had the children now, and I'm son, child boy, and he is going to grown up, and now he's going to nursery school. So they decide to move away from Tokyo to 1 or 2 hours away from Tokyo, where they're full of nature. So they wanted to bring their children up inside the very comfortable atmosphere and appreciating the nature, surrounding nature. So what is most important for their family is appreciating the surroundings. So I didn't do any extension of the house. I just extend a little roof around the house to make that some area space to appreciate the outside, and also extend the big terrace where you can appreciate the surroundings, nature. This is interior. Compared to the other project, I renovated everything. No, it looks like brand new, but actually it's only the base of the interior. It's like plywood. I didn't do any finish. I just put the plywood for the base, so they can paint by themselves, or they can put the fabrics, or they can put the plaster or whatever they want. So through their history, bringing his son up to the adult, that they can work on this house by themselves. So that is the concept. And I also exposed the original structure. I examined that this house already had the three renovation. That you can see that wall is the oldest part, and they extended a little. Then they made another extension. This house was like almost 40-year-old house, not so old, but this house had several history of the extension. And I thought this is very important for the new owner to understand the history of this house, to appreciate, because this house is one of the environment he wished to live in. But still, inside the house, you can feel that you are living outside. You know, I designed the new windows that you can hide it inside the wall. So when you open the window, you feel like you're almost like outside in the house, in the nature. And also the top light, there's some roof, but I took away the roof, and I put the new glasses, so you can see that the forest around that house from inside. So this is like a strongest, most important concept that they require, that they want to live inside the environment, not live inside the house. So that is their uniqueness. And they even accept or propose me to make the floor like outside. So I poured the concrete, I put away from the floor and poured the concrete, so that they can get inside outside. And this is some corridor between the living space and the kitchen, dining, and when it's raining, it's very beautiful that you can see the rain drips here. Actually, that was a very strong requirement from the housewife. And this is the extension. What I additionally made is just the floor outside the house, so you can enjoy the environment with the full of nature. And the husband also needs some space to work, so I add some small container to put in the next of their house. But the container can open the door very open wide, so it's very good connection. And also I created the outside, the living space and dining space. So whenever I designing I try to make the specialized the requirement and follow the list of the requirements. So even that is my design, but that the clients appreciate this is their design. So, and that after the few years I visiting their house, and I'm usually very much surprising how much they are changing their house by themselves. And that in this house there's a nice view from the nighttime, but actually this is a view from outside, but from the inside, they can see the very nice moonlight from the inside, through the top light. So that is somehow was designing, but actually that was their requirement of the first night they spent in this house. I mean, in this plot, and they discovered there's a very good moonlight. So actually, they asked me some hint that can we change the roof to the glass roof, and that was a simple idea from housewife. Then I strongly liked that idea, so that was the most important thing that I did it for this house. So it's kind of simple what I'm doing, but when I'm designing the house totally new from the empty plot, this is something different. I have to examine the surroundings and the environment very much. And I also have to read through the list of their requirements more carefully. This is the house for the young family. They have 2 children, but the husband have the very unique habit. He has a huge collection of the small figures, which is like Batman or Star Wars or Spider-Man. Or they have the thousands of the collections. And the housewife, she also adding her own collections. And through that parents' habit, both children have their own another habit, so that the whole family have their own collections. So I thought, well, maybe it's nice to make the environment from their collections. So I make the lots of shelves inside the house. So I like my concept is trying to make shelf as much as possible. And that actually their requirement is they like to live together inside the one house. They needed the space for the children. They needed a space for the husband and wife, and they need several rooms actually to have the privacy. But they same time they like to feel that we are living inside the same house or same garden. Actually, they wanted to have the courtyard, but their plot is so small. So I thought that maybe they needed one big shelter at the courtyard, and they need a small shelter inside the house. Out there, nest maybe. So I made that each rooms like that. You can see in the center of this picture, and I also put some niched space in each around the staircase. You can see there's a small tatami floor, but the height of the ceiling is 1.4 meter. So that the children can enjoy the space like this, but like this. But the adult can only use like that. So this is mostly the place for the children to play with the brother and sister. And if you go down, there is that space for the dining, and there's another space for the cooking. Kitchen over there. So this is from inside the room so each of the family member can make their space with their collection, and when the children get adult, maybe they can change their habit, so they can replace the collection, and they can still make their own space with the things. And this is the kitchen that was a little bit half down underground. And I still wanted to have the scenery from the surroundings, so I put the aluminum panel on the ceilings, and there's a very interesting reflection from the surroundings. This is a nighttime. This is more simple to see the concept. So the dark space is their garden, and the blighted space is their own nest. So this is a very interesting but simple composition of the inside, outside, or like inside the house. This is another house with the unique couple. These couples are both female, and they are famous manga author. And their requirement is that they don't want to go outside in the daytime. They want to live inside the house whole the day, and they only going outside on the nighttime. And I don't know, or it sounds weird or it's natural for you, but they are manga author. They are working inside the house, and they are living inside the house, and they're also inviting the collaborators to their house. Like every month, they have deadlines for the magazines. And they say they usually work like in 20 days, very hard, together with the 8 people, like an alternative family. And only other 10 days they have relaxed private time for the couples. So this is like a house for the alternative family. And I designed the house with like a 2 boat, like connecting each other. But I thought, do we need such a kind of room, kind of space? Because those 2 female couple, they don't need the privacy. What they need is like a hierarchy of the working space, private space, or a sleeping space. So I imagine some long, narrow space continuously, but from the shape of the plot, I try to make it roll, so it's try to make it spiral. So there in the center, there's a huge, not huge, very small, but tube well that you can appreciate light from the sky. So this is like a very center of the house, and it's a very simple picture that you can see the concept. You can get a very nice sunlight from the ceiling, and there's a staircase. You can see that the working space at the ground floor, and the white space is the private space for the couple, and upper space is a sleeping place for the couples. So it's like circulating with spiral shape. And what they really like to have inside the house is they spend almost all the daytime in this house, but they still want to have that surprise of the nature, feeling of the changing of the season, to get a very good inspiration for their manga creative work. So I also tilted that each walls a little by little, and so through the daytime, there's with the movement of the light, the reflection of the light and the movement of the lights is really, really interesting. So in this way, every season or every change of the time, they say there's a new discovery inside this house. So they still enjoying the living in this house to discover the change of the moment, to have the good sensation for the to reflect their creativity. So this is the entrance and the working space. I try to make the modern or industrial feeling of material, and yeah, and this is also the working space. Yep, and staircase, and this is the dining space, and in the end there's a white space which is a private space for the couples. So it looks like a natural wood, but I painted with the white. So it's like everything is white in this space. And up above, it's going to be a very naked space. So this is a sleeping space for them. So they spend almost all the day with the naked in this house, in this space. And again, so this is their requirement, and I try to design through their requirement. This house looks very different from ordinary house, and it's maybe impossible to stay and use this house as a usual house or usual family. But for them, for those couples, this is very suitable place, and So this is how I'm going to design the space for the families. And this is one of the most unique experience for me, that family is a very ordinary family, but they have the very few budget for the making house, almost like 1/3 of the usual house, but they still wanted to make some architecture for their living. And that they liked this land very much. They said that they took like 5 years to find this land, to buy this land. They like these surroundings. So I thought what I can do, and I tried to think about using the soil in this land, because every time when we are making the house, we dig the land to make in the foundations. And actually we are taking this soil away from the land, and we are also paying for it. And that if we use this soil to making the house, it's really makes sense for that economy-wise, and also it's very good for the environment-wise, and also aesthetically it's also interesting. But what is most important thing for the family is they can feel that they are really connected to this place. So that, and this house almost looks like the human body. So the family can feel that this is a part of their family or a part of their body. So this is the plan, and you can see the colored area is that structure made with the soil and the timber frames, and the other walls are the wooden timber walls. This is like this. This is a structure, and in Japan we have like a traditional technique using that soil to make that architecture, but it's usually used for that making that storehouse, but not so many times that we use for the house. So I asked the structural engineers from Arabs to create a new structure system. So they think about to making the wood frame truss wall, and it's going to be like how to say, it looks like cage, and in between this cage we can put the soil inside. So the soil will work as a compression, and these timbers is working for that tension. So it's almost like a human bodies of the nerves and the muscles. And that I also tested the material from the soil from the land. This is the test piece I mixed with the cement with the soil. And this is a cement, a little bit less, it's 50%. And I also put together with the lime. And actually, lime works very good with the soil at the site. And we decided and tested and decided the mixture of the soil and lime and cement. We put a little bit of sand also. And this is a real structure, and we need some part. We need more like a reinforcement. So we use the metal sheet for that. It's like a 12. Millimeter thickness of the steel plate to reinforce the structure. And we actually mixed the material at the site. It's like making a bread. And we put the soil one by one. Actually, it was so hard to find the contractor that nobody would never did it kind of structure before. So maybe that 30% of the house was built by ourselves, and I actually by myself made maybe probably 10% of this house, and I don't want to do it anymore in my life. It was so hard, but actually it looks good. You can see that there's inside the space we use it cast for the concrete house. It's like plywood with the very smooth surface, and outside we use the timbers with the 15 centimeter because the soil is not so smooth enough. We have to compress each 15 centimeter by 60 centimeter by hand. It's the best way we examined. Then after taking out the cast, it gives very good lines of the surface, and you can see the horizontal line as the process of the construction, and the diagonal lines for the spiral for the structure. And this is inside. But this house really needed taking care of because it's sand or soil. It's going to be taken down every day. So the people living inside the house really have to clean up every day. So it's like a communication between the human and the house. But inside there's a very huge wall made by the plywood, so it's the most strongest part of the structure. Actually, that soil looks heavy, but it's plastic, and it gives a very good condition to control the humidity. It's like a down jacket you're wearing on, so it gives a really comfortable atmosphere to live inside. And this is another house that I designed inside the middle of Tokyo. And this family is also a very ordinary family, I thought in the first time. But actually the housewife was a really interesting lady, that she herself was the fashion designer, and she has so many materials and the samples that she can never throw it away. She has to keep it in her collections. Every year she has to find that, oh, I need some collection, and she need to go to the storage and to find it out. So she said most important things for me is the storage for the materials. But their plot is so small, and they still wanted to keep the two cars. And there's so many requirements. Their special uniqueness was that they have so many requirements. But what they were very clever was they said we don't really need a space for living. They said that we are living inside the Tokyo. It's very good environment for the living. We can say that we are living inside the urban. We are living inside the Tokyo, so that we can say Tokyo is our living space. What we need is maybe only the bedroom. Anything else we can do in the Tokyo. So I decided to make the house like a storage of their belongings. So this is the section. I made a very strong core in the center of the house and tried to use it as a storage house. And around the storage house, there's a circulation of the movement of the families. And this is the plan. Also that you can see the very strong core in the center, and anything else is just a circulation. And this is the process of the structure, construction. Actually, this location plot was very weak with the ground. There's a stream in the underground, and the earth was really weak. So we have to put the long pile, like 14 meters of the pile for such a small houses. And that cost a lot, but the budget was limited. So we decided to erase the concrete foundation. We just put the steel beam just on the top of the piles. And from the pile, there's a strong core of the steel plate was coming up. So it's almost like a tree, with the big trunk and the branches coming out from the trunk. So it gives a very good cantilever. This is a core of this building. Structurally, we made with the steel plate with 12 millimeter. And we also put the ribs to reinforce it. This is like this. It was like a very beautiful color when we install it. But during the construction period, of course, it's getting stained, red. And but with this strong core system that we can make the very big, like a cantilever of like a 2 meter or 3 meter longs. And this is when it completed. It's the ground floor, and they say ground floor is like their garden. They just want to put some cactus around. And this is the first floor. And the first floor is their storage house, and they want to store here their children. The bottom, that is the little son's room, and up above is the elderly son's room. And behind, there's a bedroom for the parents. So they think that the family itself is one of their belongings, and they store it inside the staircase. And this is like a parent's staircase and storage, and that rectangle, a triangle opening is their dresser. And this is second room. This is the living room and the kitchen. And they also have the storage in the middle of the house. And up above, there is a bathroom, yeah, and the bathing room. And this is the kitchen. And this is from the living room that they have that very small but very nice view terrace in the top space. And that, yeah, this is the top floor that for the bathroom. They can be naked, and they can see the environment, neighbors. But actually, because of this height, that no neighbors can see they are naked. But they still can see that neighbors with naked. So this is the scenery from the bathroom that they can see that you can see the very, very small corner for the dining space, and that you can see that everything was so cozy and that side by side, and you can see that the three houses in front of their windows, and actually there's a lots of house standing closely with a very big dense, so that it's really center of the Tokyo housing area. That everything was very dense. So the room is also dense. It's like reflecting the feeling of the neighborhood, and they are very comfortable with this. And this is the living space and corridor, and they still wanted to put some furnitures. They don't have so many spaces, but they are happy with surrounded by the furnitures and lots of books. And this is how they done, and when it's finished, so that you can really feel that you are living inside the Tokyo. You are living inside the neighborhood. And from the neighbors, that they can see that how they are living inside also. And they refuse to put any curtains, and they really like to say that they are living inside the Tokyo. So because of their requirement, I decide to make the roof, a window, every window with the house shape, so that through the view of the windows, that each scenery sees that one of the houses. So this is nighttime. You can see that almost everything inside the house, what's happening. But the shape has the roof shape, and the interior also have the lots of roof shape. So this house is on the corner of this center of Tokyo, so that this house actually changed that feeling of atmosphere. Before this house was built, that was only that huge, dense feeling. But with this houses, that the neighbors also can appreciate. Oh, we can say that we can open up the feeling of the neighborhood. That we can be like live together with the neighbors like a family. So this is like this family's idea that they wanted to say they are living inside the Tokyo. That means they are searching the neighbors as a part of the family. That kind of the feeling was always in Japan, even in Tokyo, that we have very good connection with the neighborhood. But now that time is changing, and that lots of people coming from outside of Tokyo to move into the Tokyo, so that you don't see that the neighbors for that almost like 1 month or the whole year. That happens, but the young generation people tends to like to open up their lifestyle and trying to make the marriage engage the good community, which is what I'm feeling right now. So that feeling of the private residency was kind of changing. I feel that like 10 years ago, that was the space for the family, to protect the family from outside. But now the meaning of the house changing a little bit to open their family to the neighbors. And that is the situation of the housing, what I'm feeling right now in Tokyo. And that I did it quick, but it's ending of the first. I'd like to introduce you some of my public project. First, I like to show you that a few projects in one remote island called Teshima. Teshima is located one of the most famous island now, Shima, which is famous with art tourism, and both islands are based on the Setouchi Inland Sea of Japan, west side of Japan. And the name of Teshima actually means rich island or harvesting island, because there is a natural found in this island that you can get a very pure water, so you can produce the rice and you can produce the vegetable, and also that Teshima is surrounded in that beautiful sea, so you can get lots of the sea food products. So you can actually live only inside the island and survive. It's kind of very unique and rare examples in the small remote island. And because of this rich surroundings and the environment, even before World War II, that there is many public facilities in Teshima, like there's a special TB treated facilities there, and there's also a nursery house in this island in before World War II. And one of the young social activists called Toyohiko Kagawa, he was also in this island to heal his illness, and he stayed there to imagine his ideal environment or ideal neighborhood that people can engage the farming and that very nice social welfare system together, engaging in their daily life. And then he made the kind of the activities through those kind of period, and he made a very big like strategies or a slogan. Then he get famous, and that actually he suggested to build a farming school in this island in 1947, engaging the Christianity daily life, and also the agriculture, which you can farm that produce the rice and vegetables, and also the fruit and the milk also together, all in one process. And there's a lots of very ambitious farmers all over the Japan comes to visit this island to learn and spread this kind of modern type of agriculture. So that the Teshima was first found as the island of the farming, and that because of this kind of rich agriculture background, that Kagawa also proposed to build the orphan babies house in this island, because orphan babies can survive without mother's milk, but they have cow's milk. So he proposed to build the first orphan baby house in this area, in this island, Teshima. And that more than 1,000 numbers of the babies who saved their life in this facilities, so that the island of people in this island was so much proud of these facilities. And after these facilities, there's a elderly care house was built here, and also the handicapped people's house was built here. And it was in such a small island, this kind of the good welfare facility was built. And now that the Shimo is famous as a island of hospitality, but from the 1975 that there's an illegal industrial waste treating facility was set in this island, and there's a lot of industrial waste was brought into this island and the local people tried to against it, but the local government cannot stop it, so they fight against in the court for 25 years, and they finally local people win, and that the government have to stole all the industry away from this island. And it was just finished last year. It took another 20 years. So there's a long period that the local people have to fight against industrial waste. And that almost all the Japanese people knows about that stories. And now that the Shima was get very famous with the island of the industrial waste, that really has the pride of the people, because they can produce lots of fruit and vegetables and food, but they cannot sell it by their name. They always selling their product as neighbor's island name, so that is really bad. And that to change their condition, local government decided to start international art festival to invite lots of guests to this neighborhood islands, and they tried to organize art festival at Setouchi 2010. But in the beginning, this is very hard to engage that this activity. Festival together with the people in Teshima, because that they had the long history of fighting against each other. So that the organizer of this art festival comes to me to ask me to design some venue to make the good marriage of the local people and artists and tourists getting together. So I start research of the surroundings and then neighborhood and then village, and I find the one empty house which is not used for 20 years, but they have very big trees in the center of the plot, and every evening the old ladies from the neighborhood comes here and chatting together, and in this spot there's a lot of fig tree and other fruit tree was there that the neighbors put the trees by themselves, and they actually take care of the fruit, and also there's lots of beautiful flower in the garden. So this empty plot was used as almost like a community garden for the neighbors. Then I thought that maybe it's nice to make these trees 10 times bigger. Then we can invite lots of people from outside and then engage with the local people. That's my first idea. So I tried to design the roof around the tree to make this tree 10 times bigger. And that I tried to make the stage, outside stage around the tree, and that I adopted the idea of the traditional no theater, Japanese no theater, because it's always like a performance from in outside. But I adapted it to a modern style of the theater that any kind of the modern performance can perform here. But this island, there's no general contractor, and there's no factory in this island. So I have to find the materials only in this island and for the construction. And I decide to use the water pipe. So the water pipe is that you can find everywhere in where the people lives. And I also use the foundation of the this is a foundation usually used for the agriculture greenhouse, but I adapted to the foundation of this roof, and that I used the steel rod for the concrete reinforcement for the leaves, and I used the cladding of the house wall which is wood, but I invented to use it for the roof. And I asked the calculation of the structure for the also Arab, and they say the most weight we have to think about is the wind pressure from sideway. So I decide to make the roof only tied with the plastic band to the steel rod. So when the strong wind comes, that the roof flat like a bird feather. Because of this system, that with the calculation of the Arabs, that we can create a very narrow beams and the columns. Again, that the column is only 32 centimeter of the steel pipe, and the beam is only 27 millimeter. I mean, sorry, it's 32 millimeter and 27 millimeter of the water pipe for the structure. It's so light. And it was done like this. It's like another tree around the tree, and a very low roof. Because before that designing this house, I walk around this village and we researched, and that there's no new material in this village, so that every house extension area is a low roof, because when some neighbor demolish the house, they get the material from the neighbors. Then they build the extension, so that you have to cut the bottom and top and make the new adapted to new columns. So always the new roof is lower. So this roof is the most new roof in this village, so have to be lowest. That's what I thought. Then this is the lowest point, like 1 meter and 40, again, something like that. It's a minimal space people can use, I think. But the highest space, like more than 3 meters, it's going to be like a landscape, and it's going to be gives a very good shadow to rest under the tree. So the feeling is almost like spending under the shadow of the trees. And it's also fit to the surrounding sceneries of the neighborhood. It doesn't disturb anything. It looks like, the totally new things happening in this village for the inhabitants. But when you're visiting this place from outside, it looks like almost like a landscape. It's nothing new for the visitors. It's so different point of view, but that's what I wanted to create. And that now this is like another tree or another shadow of the bigger tree. But the question is, what kind of performance is the most interesting, the most suitable to perform in this theater? And I thought maybe that the most interesting thing is a local mother cooking their local cuisine. And so I decided to make the center house as an open kitchen, as a stage, and that the surrounding area is the seat for the visitor to see the local mothers cooking. But I also invited the French chef from Tokyo to collaborate with the local mother. So the local mother teach him the local recipe, and the French chef teach them that international cuisine. So they combine the techniques and the knowledge, and they invented a new meal, new recipe, only for, using only the ingredients from this island. So this looks very simple but very unique mixture of the French or international and the local. So that lots of people loves it, and they comes again and again and again. And they can enjoy the meal, food around the tree, and also they can enjoy the performance of the artists. And this became a very popular place, so that tourists and also that local people work here, and they feel like they are hosting the visitors from outside. So this place actually making role for the local people. Then they realize that they loves to invite the people. They loves to host the people, and they didn't think that they are joining the art festival. They just enjoying the hosting the people. So that is how it works. And that in winter, actually, that roof will be gone, like a tree of the leaves of the tree is going out. This is like a moment of the we are setting the tuning or like doing the maintenance, and then we take the roofs again. It takes only 3 days. But we're supposed to do it in like every season, like winter. And after that, the changing the roof, we celebrate the new roof together with the local people. And so it's like local activities, new activities. And that I propose local people to use this venue as much as possible for their local activities. But the first few years, they are kind of trying to concentrate to be the host, and they're kind of shy to use this venue for themselves. But after that 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they started to organize their own activities in this venue. Every month now, they are organizing the birthday party for all of the people in this island. Every month, they post their invitation card to each house. There's a 500 house in this island, so they are posting the 500 the postcard for each houses to invite them to the birthday party. Actually, this is not only for the birthday party, but this island, the inhabitants getting older, and sometimes they are living alone. So it's like taking care of the neighbors if they are okay or if they are not. It's like a kind of they making a very good network of taking care of each other. It's kind of like a natural way of making the welfare system, I thought. And that after this Shima Kitchen project, back to that orphan babies house. Now they are. This island is very famous with art, but because the population is getting less and less, but still also the age of the people getting older and older, and actually there's no doctor living in this island anymore. Then orphan babies house have to move away from this island. That is very big shock for the local people because they love this facility very much, and this is kind of the iconic building for them, and they are so much proud of it. But they're losing this facility because there's no doctor anymore. But this is a big turning point for them that they really think that we have to think about the future of this island. So they organized that some council, a conference together with the local people, and they invited some specialists or some kind of organization that they're running these facilities. And after the 3 years of discussion, they decide to use this building, not demolish, but they want to use with another purpose. And they comes to me to think about the new program of this building. And then we started to design the program, and we decided to use one of this building, renovate to change into a guest house and a public house so that the local people can use it and the visitor can use it, and they can organize that very good engagement. And that's the same kind of the program that I did for the Shima Kitchen. And I used this center greenhouse and trying to make the public bathhouse and the guest house. And that the rest of the blue building is the future project. But the budget was so limited, and again, there's no general contractor in this island, so we have to ask the local worker directly to each work, and we have to actually organize the construction team by ourselves. And sometimes we invited the supporters. We organized a workshop, and we did like a paint the wall by ourselves or like a seating by ourselves, and we try to work as much as possible. But this is a process of inviting people into the architecture before it was completed, so that the people who joined the construction process thinking that this is one of our own projects, so that that is kind of the process that we can create the feeling of the people who can belongs to this building more and more. And that after that finish in 2017, that we start inviting that people from all over the world, and with that public bath facing to the forest, and also that cafe and restaurant that they can use for the daily use, and also the weekend activities there that local people can and tourists can have a very good relationship. And sometimes we invite artists from the outside of Japan and making the workshop together with the local people. So there's also like an international new network is engaged in this venue. And that now we are thinking another project for the rest of the building, including that elderly care house, which is very next to that guest house, that they have to change their program. Now they are only used for the elderly care house, but we have to change. They have to change the service for that more to inclusive society for the future. So we are kind of thinking of the new networks of the welfare of this island. And then our idea is this island is now very famous for the touristic island by using the art festival, but actually that the tourism is a very good welfare chance for the local people. So we are kind of thinking of joining the welfare and tourism together and making a new unique service network for this island, and that we have to get engaged at generations, and we have to invite many people from outside to. Actually, those ladies came from the Tokyo or Kyoto or Kobe, and they moved to this island, and then they're trying to make a new family here. And that now we are kind of thinking that what's going to happen for next 10 days, that we are having the meeting that everyone's in 2 months going to Teshima Island and invite more people, and then organizing the network of the thinking a new chance of a new network, new welfare network. But actually what is the most important is that the guests for the guest house, they are coming from international area like Spain or Portugal or Poland, but they like that idea of using that orphanage house into the guest house, and they likes to join the program, and they are asking, how can we join the program? How can we support this program? That is a very good chance and motivation to invite more people that who can think that they really, they're not only the guests, but they can be a supporter of this project. So that is how we are trying to open up this project and trying to make a new future system of the remote island, not only the local people, but for the view of the making networking internationally. And I have another project in Hiroshima, in the center of Hiroshima, and this is the department store built like 70 years ago, and this department store experienced the atomic bomb, and even after the World War II and after the atomic bomb, this department store is still used as a department store, and that is only one building in Hiroshima, or I mean in Japan, after the atomic bomb, still using with the same purpose. And when my childhood, the rooftop of the department store was very exciting place for the children, but now the department store is kind of ordinary store, but owner of this building comes to me and they likes to open up the rooftop again to the public service. And we organized the supporters meeting in this department store, because this department store is very iconic for the local people, and the local people loves this department store. So there's so many people wants to join this program, and actually the neighbors, the lots of organization people get together and discuss what kind of activities is suitable in this rooftop in future. And we organized 13 activities in 1 year before start designing, and that's so it's almost like one activities in each month. That then we organize like a game festival for the children. We organize tea ceremony. We organize yoga festival, and after those 13 activities, I start designing the venue for 1 year. So there's a lots of requirement comes from the public meeting and those through those activities. So I really don't have to design by myself. I just have to collect those ideas and put into the design. And there's the design I finished and was opened 1 year later. And there's a lot of people came for the opening. Actually, there's lots of stages because there's various activities they like to organize. So I made the stages not like a stages. I make the stage for the surroundings. But actually, this kind of stage was used for the living space for the children and mother, because there's no many place in the center of the Hiroshima city but there's lots of young generation people wants to bring their children and let them play. So there's some requirement that comes from during the supporters meeting. So that is a place how I designed this place for them. And I also designed some venue for the children to play, and some like tunnels. Actually, this tunnel is a future library that the children can bring their favorite book into it, and they can install it. And they can install this his favorite book here, and another children come and take it. But this is a place to exchange your favorite books. So it's going to be a future library for the children. And we also created the garden, and it took us like 3 years to this greens got very good. And after that, there's a favorite place for the neighbors to have lunch here. And we again organized a yoga festival here, and also the evening concert or free market or night programs. So this is really now very active and the favorite place for the neighborhood people. We really didn't have to organize the activities after the design, because in the process of the designing, they already get the chance to organize the team to think about how to use this program, this venue. And also that they invited the local neighborhood people. So the people living around this area, everybody thinks that this is a place for their place. No? So this is that from this project, I learned that this kind of process, how to invite the people into the design process. Then I now having the chance to do some project in France. There is a national park it's called National Park of Calanques, very close to Marseille, and it is a huge landscape, and it's like limestones, and this is one of the beautiful landscape called Cap Canaille, and you can see this landscape from here. And actually, this area was decided to be a national park 5 years ago, but even before that, there's lots of tourists coming into this landscape, because this landscape was so much loved by a neighborhood. But actually, during before the World War II, there's lots of limestone business was happening here. So they took lots of limestone from here. So there's lots of the ruins of the quarry business. This is a view from Cap Canaille, and you can see this kind of landscape, and it's almost like 2 kilometers. But this is not really natural landscape. This is a ruin of the quarry business. So I will see that this is one of the biggest hurt scar that human nature made for the natural landscape. And there's many ruins of the quarries, and there's many ruins, but still this place was beloved, and lots of people comes in the summertime and enjoying seeing the beautiful scenery. But there's not so good condition because national park now decide to protect the condition. They decide to not to install any human-made elements inside the park, so they just protect it. But it's same time it's getting abandoned because lots of people are still coming inside the nature, and they're actually making rough condition of the nature more and more. And even they don't have any toilet inside the park because they decide to not to make any instrument. Then I thought, how can I set up the condition of this area? Actually, there's an open call from the national park that they like to change the situation. So they call the artist or scientist or researcher to think about the new relationship between the human nature. And as an architect, I was kind of interested in this kind of theme. So I joined AARA, and I was chosen to be a part of the team. And after the 2 months of the research and making the proposal, and I was chosen to continue the project to design the entrance zone area of the National Park of Calanques. It calls it Pomiu. It's a little port, and it's like 2 kilometers of the area. And on the top of the Pomiu, there is a big landscape, but it's not natural. You know, you can see that this looks like a big swimming pool, but this was after the quarry business. They took all the limestone away from this area. So it's like a huge abandoned place. So I wanted to make the more nicer quality of this area and try to mend the landscape and try to celebrate landscape. That is something that I wanted to do. And because they say they wanted to change this area as an international gate, so I don't want it to put something like a memorial statue or a big door or big gate. I don't want it to do it because there's a huge natural area and people are walking through or making a good trip. And before coming to this place, that as an international gate, people have to make trip from other place to come to France. Then they come to this area. So between the trip and trip, I like to make another small trip between 2 trips, maybe a 1-day trip or a 2 hours trip, to understand the history of this area or history of the relationship between the human nature, how we love this nature and how we hurt and destroy this nature and how we are trying to mend this nature so that the people can instantly understand how we should behave inside the nature. And so the first step, I invited students from the local school and ask them to think what is a suitable project inside the park. And in 2 hours, they create some like a venue with a stone or trees. They are really fantastic work. They did some with a very good creation. And also there are more research and more place I found at the quarry. Ruins and some structure from the industry, but and also there's a pure stream coming from the underground, so that actually the port water is so beautiful, and that nature is slowly coming back. And so we start think about the proposal, how we can mend this landscape with the architecture vocabulary. I first designed some kind of the sketches to try to make the big garden, not designing architecture, but to make the garden more like visible. I imagined to put some how to say frame with an architecture vocabulary. It could be like a path, or it could be like a roof, but this is not like a building, but to celebrating the landscape. Just like when you are making up yourself, you're celebrating yourself. You dress up, or you put the perfume in your face, or you put the earring or necklace, just like this. I like to put some kind of little instrument around the landscape and try to celebrate it. That's my first idea. So I made the maps and drawing together with the students who are at the architecture school in Marseille, and trying to put the little elements onto that landscape. If there are this kind of the landscape, I was trying to think some like a footpath to design to make that little celebration of this area. Or if there are port, I was thinking about the extent that some like deck, so that people can walk on the water, and that they have the more interesting relationship with the water. And inside the deck could be like a pool, swimming pool. Or if there are open space, we are thinking about making the new roofs and making the open theater. Or if we find the ruins of the quarry business, we can make some deck to see that landscape and learn the history of this area. And also we can make a very long slope that so we can avoid that people to come here by the car, but by the foot, so that we can save the condition of the nature. And also the big water pool, I mean the swimming pool, like the ruins, that we can change it into that laboratory of the new vegetation, that the researcher, only the researcher can come and that research for a long time to see that how the vegetation can recover the landscape. And also we can propose that some venue that we can do the very good meditation inside the nature, strong nature, and that we can feel that we are part of the nature, and how we can appreciate the nature, or how we can be a part of the nature. So that finally I made some kind of bird view sketches and proposed it, and they liked it, so they decided to keep on going. And I'm keeping visiting that place like every once in 2 months or something, and trying to make that discussion with the local people, just like the project I did in Hiroshima. So that starting, we are trying to make a discussion and collecting more ideas from the local people, a local group, or organization to maybe we are going to organize some activities here before start designing. And every time I update some sketches and maps, and this is the latest map I create with the local people. And this summer we are organized one installation inside this national park, just in the end of the port. This is a little forest here. And this installation is supposed to be a very first step, beginning of the thinking about the relationship between human and nature. And I wanted to start this design through these pictures. This is the picture of the forest of Teshima Island, and you can see that the ring between the tree and tree, we call it crown shyness. This is a relationship of each trees inside that old forest of the 1,000 years or something, that when the forest is getting the climax period, the trees learned how to behave, each one of them. So they trying to put the more lights inside the ground floor and ground level, but they still wanted to have the long, big branches, but they don't touch each other. They don't bother each other. So I thought this is something we can learn from the nature, that how we can think about the relationship between human and nature. So I start to draw some sketches in between location of each trees, and trying to sketch the invisible borders in between the trees and trees. And that it looks like one of the seed, so that the park people call it, maybe it's nice to name it Seed Pavilion. So I start design the seed, and I asked the local manufacturer to provide some material for us, and they provide us like a stainless inox seat, and I put the seat around the small container again, and try to make a very small pavilion. And so this was how it was done. And I put 1,600 pieces of the inox seat around the little pavilion to make the good reflections, and that the people can visit here can feel that real environment of this area. But actually, this shape is not making that product, or not making that statue or monument. This carving shape is trying to make the new in front of this carving surface. So each surface can provide new meeting point or new activity points for several groups. So this pavilion have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces. Surface. So there's 5 kind of activities we can organize around this pavilion, and then each activities maybe can do very good relationship, and maybe they can organize new discussion around this pavilion and how they can organize the new future of the national park. So together with the local organizer or local people or local activists, that we are trying to organize a public discussion around this seed pavilion, and that through that research period, I learned one very good things that from the landscape designer or botanist, that she said, if there are small rocks inside the wild environment, this rock could be a very good trigger or very good chance for the vegetation to survive, and this is the starting of the forest. So that our small pavilion will be a very small rocks, but if there are many people surrounded around this pavilion and start do the discussion, this could be a very good future forest. That's my thinking. And the first public meeting was held at September 6th, together with the city mayor of this region, and also lots of institute and park and architect or local organizer, and they have a very good discussion. And I'm looking forward that this project will keep on going, and that maybe we can find that new forest in this area maybe 100 years later. So this is my latest project in France. Thank you very much.
Now it's time to announce the results of our competition, so please let me say a few words in Polish. Ryo, I will start. We have a standard question which we ask our every guest lecturer. You came to Poland 2 days ago.
Yes.
You visited Krakow. You also had a chance to visit Katowice. And I would like to ask you, what are your impressions about our city?
Here in Katowice, I strongly felt that there's a lot of things happening right now, and that but you still have the very strong uniqueness of this area related to industry and also history, and that there's lots of new design building was coming up, but actually I could see lots of good connection between the history and the future. So I feel that the next 10 years or 5 years, it will be a most exciting moment for the architect to be here in Katowice.
Thank you very much. Does anyone has any questions? It's time for you.
Hello, you spoke a lot about your clients of your houses. Do you visit your clients after the completion of your houses and years after they living in these houses and ask them if their life are changed because of your architecture, because what you designed?
Yeah, yes, I do. And as I explained that through my design process, I ask their requirement, everything, and I ask them to make a list from the most important thing to the very light things. And I design to follow their list. And they think that they always have the two opinion. And first day, they moved into the house. They really surprised how it happened. This is very unique or surprising. But once they start living inside the house, they understand, oh, this is coming from my idea. This is coming from our idea. So they really think that appreciate that. They are all of them are feeling comfortable to live because this is actually coming from their request, and they are very happy to see how unique their requirement is and how unique their family is. They are kind of appreciating the uniqueness of these each families, and most of the time that the children get very unique and that they have very good talent with the artworks or some kind of talent they are trying. They are really showing to their parents, and they are kind of very. More than parents, but the children are more proud of their. Seems to proud of their house, and that usually I really enjoying is that they really changing the house before the beginning of their when they're moving. After 1 year or 2 years, they changing a lot. That means that my space is giving their new idea of the creation, and they're using the space more than I imagined. So I really love to visit that house after the construction, maybe 5 years or 10 years later, and trying to see what the difference of the space and what's the creation of my clients have. And actually, before coming here, I had call from my previous clients, which I designed 15 years ago, and they comes back to me and designing the extension of the house. And I actually visit their house like last week, and I was really surprised that they built all the furniture by themselves, actually, and it was really well done. And now I'm really happy and get big motivation to do that design service for them again.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone brave? Okay, so once again, thank you very much, Ryo. We would like thank you for making time, for coming to our city. It was a real pleasure to host you.
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you.
Także jeszcze raz wielkie brawa dla naszego mistrza architektury, Ryo Abe.
Thank you very much.